Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, and I just want to introduce my co-host real quick so we can dive into some great weird news and also a movie that surprisingly, at least to me, was pretty decent, a dark song, but from the great state of California, and hopefully it's sunny there. How you doing, Moni?
I'm doing well, although it is not sunny. I'm like an old granny here. I've got candlelight going and I'm like bundled up. It's gloomy for California standards, but other than that, like you always say, Yardley, first world problems, we'll be okay.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what's up. Well, here it rained a lot last week, and allegedly it was supposed to rain this weekend, but none of that panned out, so sorry to hear that. So, Kristi, up 400. What's the weather looking like for you out there?
We actually got a pretty good downpour. It was quick last night, and then it's, overcast as it's been all week, but no rain. So,
okay.
I'm kind of happy about it because allergies,
Yeah, but what happens down here is we'll have a big influx of pollen, and then we'll get a rain, and then it tends to make it more humid. So let's hope that that's not the case when we get these storms later on this week.
Yep.
All right, so I guess we've got a couple of weird news stories. Now, the one that kind of popped up in my face the hardest, it's another poop story, but this right here will definitely be the conclusion to any more reporting on the poop story. So let us know what's going on with Febreeze.
I had to, because my job is literally public relations and marketing for a national company. And so, of course, when I saw this, I just was tickled because it's such a great thing to do from a marketing standpoint. Based from our story last week, we talked about the poop train had the reign of terror in that poor Alabama town. Febreeze has come to the rescue and has brought all its citizens, I don't even know how much Febreeze, I think 1,000 bottles of Febreeze for these people. This guy who owned a store in a little convenience store in the town wrote to Febreeze, and they came through and brought, and the literal title is Febreeze freshens up town after NYC poop train stunk it up. So, see, there's a happy ending.
Yeah, I guess so. But whenever you read that article, they had someone from that town that was saying, this is what the town will be known for. But, I mean, to be honest with you, most people probably wouldn't even remember the name of the town without hearing poop train.
Yeah.
So
I think the funniest part about it is there's a video that you can watch, and it shows the poop train, and all the cars, the train cars, say epic on them, and I'm like, you're not lying there. It's like the most epic smell of all time comes and parks itself next to this poor town. So anytime I see a train car that says epic, I'm gonna run for the hills.
Well, hey, that's what's up. And I see a couple more stories now, Moni. I really hope you're going to tackle both of them, except the second one. No, actually, the second one to the last one was actually Kristi's. It's about the Play-Dough. Yeah. So seeing as Kristi did the first one, go ahead and do the Play-Dough, and then we'll go to Moni.
All right. So I thought this was kind of funny, and it tickled me because... say, Yardley, you went on a date with somebody and they smelled like Play-Doh. Would that be like a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, would it be a good thing or a bad thing if I would automatically recognize that scent on someone?
Would it be it reminds me of my childhood, or do you work for a nursery or something?
I would just be wondering if they're stashing Play-Doh in their purse or something. I would probably think that. I wouldn't think that they
like one does. Yeah.
Well, Hasbro has decided to trademark Play-Doh's scent and have now created colognes and candles made from the scent. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a weirdo and I like the smell of Play-Doh, but not enough to like put it on my body or, you know, make my home smell like it. So I can't wait to see how this turns out for them.
I like the title here though. Hasbro trademarks Play-Doh's scent, sweet and slightly musky, and I'm like, is it like a clean vagina? Like
exactly. It's kind of what people describe vagina smells. So yeah, that's an interesting description. But and it also said with a hint of baked dough, and I'm like, no shit, it's Play-Doh. Like, duh.
Well, now that we've had that conversation, if a human being smelled like Play-Doh overall, I would have questions that I would be afraid to ask. So.
We'd be like, oh, you have eau de Play-Doh. Well done. You smell amazing.
Ugh. That's so weird.
I know. Oh, Moni, what you got?
I have. Don't you hate it when this happens? So imagine, you know, it's the end of days and you decide that, fuck it, we're just going to go nuts and we're going to do some chanting in our house, dance around, and then we're going to set the whole house on fire and walk out naked because who cares? We're all going to die today anyway, and then you don't die. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Right, of course.
This couple was arrested for fleeing a South-made home, it's in Texas, naked after a house fire, and then they assaulted the cops that came to respond, all because basically, long story short, they thought that it was the Judgment Day, and so they were behaving accordingly. They actually, the previous week, had been giving away all of their money and all of their furniture just out in the street, handing it out to people, and culminated in leaving their 13-year-old, which is the sad part of this article, in the house while they set it on fire and walked out naked and beat the shit out of cops that responded to the scene. So...
Meth is a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that should be our series. Meth is and meth is a hell of a drug news.
Yeah, no shit. So many weird news stories tied to that.
Yeah, for sure. So you know, don't do drugs. Don't do things that are for the end times unless you're damn sure. And I'm not really sure where you find out if it's the Judgment Day or not. I feel like we'll all know at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, true that. That is a crazy downside to people thinking that the end is near, and then you start doing all of these things in preparation, and then when you're wrong, you kind of have to hit the reset button, not only on your beliefs, but you know, you got some egg on your face as well. But I guess their train of thought is better prepared than not be, I suppose.
Their poop train of thought, yes, definitely.
I would love to know like what it was that they thought. What made them think this? Like, what was the sign? Was it in the Bible? Were they
this short article?
I know.
Yeah. Then their neighbors, of course, they were very good people, warm-hearted, helpful. I'm like, yeah, you think that because they were giving out $100 bills the week before.
Exactly.
Like, I'd like it too, but
yeah.
I feel like this is my future story because when I retire from working completely, you can't do this when you quit a job because it just burns too many bridges nowadays. But when I completely retire from working at all, I'm just going to go ape shit and just do whatever the hell I want my last day and possibly set whatever place I'm working at by that time on fire and walk out naked. You never know.
Nice. Hey, and where you work, that would go up in flames with all those bugs.
Exactly.
Oh, that's kind of sad. Maybe I'll find a different place to work by then. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, all right. Well, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and we're going to dive in to the movie that we all just watched. It's called A Dark Song. Now, going into this, and before I even dive into, you know, its ratings or, you know, our actual breakdown of the movie, was this something that either of you had seen prior to me, you know, bringing it up as the thing that we were going to review today?
I never
heard of it.
Yeah,
so I was glad you brought it to my attention.
Yeah, same here. I had never heard of it.
All right, well, too easy. So we all went into this brand new. So with 30 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, it's a certified 91% fresh. Take from that what you like, because it's only 30 reviews. But I think as I have kind of gone through Rotten Tomatoes and looked at a lot of movies that are reviewed, unless they're blockbusters, there doesn't really tend to be over 100 reviews for really for a lot of these movies or TV shows that they have on there. But Essentially, the movie is about Sophia, played by Catherine Walker. She rents a room in rural Wales to convince occultist Joseph Solomon, who's played by Steve Oram, to summon a guardian angel in a ritual so that they can ask the angel for a favor. Sophia initially reveals that she just wants to talk to her deceased son. So Sophia and Joseph Solomon as characters, and in the movie they don't give us a last name for Sophia. Moni, what were your overall impressions of the characters, just as actors overall in this story?
Oh my God, the actors did a really good job setting that sort of downtrodden, solemn tone that permeates for the whole film and kind of helps with that slow burn that it has. I did have to watch. There's a lot of setup. I mean, it's very talky right from the beginning, and so definitely most of the time I'm pretty guilty of, like, when I first turn on a movie, I'm still finishing up something else, or in this case, had my kids walking in and out of the room, at least the littlest one, and I was like, I had to keep rewinding it and listening over and over again. So I finally gave up and watched it last night, and actually stayed awake. I want you all to know. The narcolepsy did not get me. But yeah, the actors did a good job. I liked that I had never seen them in anything else before, so it did feel like getting an introduction to these human beings that, you know, pretty much are the only people in the entire story. So it's good stuff.
All right, Kristi.
Yeah. I mean, I as well watched it last night, and I thought the characters did really well as far as, you know, the build-up, character development. The guy, to me, you know, at the beginning really came off as unhinged, kind of, and you're thinking you're going to be sitting with this guy in a house, you know, locked in a house for 6 months or a year, and you really want to do that? Like, this must be something you really want to do, to risk that, because he just, to me, seemed just not all there. I don't know. He just seemed a little weird. So I was kind of freaked out for her, thinking, "Whoa, this is going to turn out really well." So,
well, even though, you know, I guess there was something about Joseph. I mean, he's a guy who's all into the occult, but at the same time, he was kind of apprehensive about even dealing with Sophia, and over, he kind of gave her opportunities to say, "Hey, you sure you want to do this? Hey,
yeah.
You sure you want to," you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
most people who were weird, and I don't even want to say that, but I would think that if I was going to think that this person was going to do me harm, they've kind of sucked me in because they gave me plenty of out. So
Right.
luckily, he wasn't that crazy.
No.
So Joseph ends up telling them before the ritual begins that once it starts, they cannot leave the house, or there will be grave peril for either of them once they leave beyond this barrier that he's starting to set up in chalk. And he gives her one last time to back out. He basically says, "Look, this is your chance. You can't leave for food. You can't leave for an emergency. Are you in?" And she, at this point, you know, she's really in. So Joseph ends up kind of giving her an overview of some of the things that Sophia is going to face. He tells her the ritual is going to be months. It ends up being all these punishing exercises, like water tortures, in which they'll be dealing with real demons and angels. And she ends up agreeing once again. Now, when someone says that you're going to end up dealing with real demons and angels, would this be something that you're like, yeah, okay? You know, I don't think that this is going to be literal. I think that this is going to be in a spiritual realm. Would this have been something that you would have bought, Kristi?
Well, I have to kind of put myself in her head, and going through what she was going through, I have to say that you probably won't care. Like, for me, when I sit back and look at it from my critical standpoint, I probably would be like, "You're crazy." But then I put myself in the position of a mother who's lost a child, and I can't even begin to try to understand that type of head space, like where you are in your life, and so the desperation and the feelings that go behind that, I could totally see a mom going literally to the ends of the earth to try to do what she's trying to do. So
Yeah.
I did think that's crazy that you're doing this, but I also caught myself and thought, but she lost a child, and holy shit, I couldn't even begin to imagine what that feels like.
No.
And she's sitting here thinking there could be some way to get what she's wanting, which, you know, we will reveal later, but I could see it. Yeah, I personally, at this point where I'm at right now, hell no would I do something like that. But based on losing a child, yeah, I might lose my mind and think that I'm willing to take the risk.
Okay. Moni, what's up? Are you going to go there to damnation to get some revenge for the death of your child?
I mean, yes and no. I agree with Kristi as far as I can't even imagine the loss of a child. Sorry, that's my dog chuffing in the background in case y'all can hear that. He only decides to come out when it's distracting for other reasons. Shiba Inus, man. Anyway, yeah, I absolutely would definitely think about trying something like that, but just based off of, and maybe it's just a lifetime of watching paranormal things, it always turns out bad when you try to summon spirits when you're that desperate, because I feel like it leaves you so open and vulnerable to things that might be out there that might want to prey on your desperation, your grief, and your vulnerability. So as much as I would want to talk to my child, I don't think I would do this. And I certainly wouldn't be willing to do some of the things that she does and agree to some of the things that she does. Because I don't know, I'm not a practicing Catholic by any means, but I was baptized Catholic, and I have a lot of that mentality in me. And I just feel like you're literally making a deal with the devil, and anything that comes after that is going to be all bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. And also, you know, at this point, just like us, the viewer, you know, Sophia really has no idea of, you know, some of the things that she's going to have to do over an extended amount of time to make this happen. I mean, you're essentially doing all of these things just on faith. You're just hoping that something happens. And, you know, we live in a society where everything happens immediately, and to have to go through these rituals that are months on end, that's one of the things that I don't think that I would have been prepared for, you know, because some of these rituals, as I mentioned earlier, some of them seemed like they were water tortures. Some of it was sleep deprivation. It's just some stuff that, you know, your body's not used to. We even see Sophia at one point, once she starts to release and accept that this is what she's going to do, she ended up just being comfortable with just, you know, urinating on herself. And, you know, it was kind of tough. So over months, she complies with all of these exhausting exercises. But there was one ceremony that she refused to do. It was a ceremony of forgiveness. So we'll find out a little bit later in the film why this is. But over time, even though these two characters are polar opposites, at least for me, I kind of felt that they were getting to know each other a little bit more, and we're kind of starting to be, in a weird type of a way, I don't know if I want to say friends, but people who were accepting of what the other person wanted to do. What did y'all think about that?
I like the sex magic, non-sex magic ritual. Usually when I see a woman get taken advantage of sexually, I get super upset. But that was pretty fucking funny, actually, because he had warned her that they were going to have, like, ritualistic sex and have to do sex magic, and she agreed to it. And then when it came down to it, he was just a lonely, horny man living in her house without other opportunities for outlets. It took advantage of her, and it's not nice, but it's a pretty funny scene. So.
Yeah, I agree with Moni on that one. It was, and then she was pissed. I mean,
I would have been.
I mean, we can have that conversation if we haven't got to it yet. But it was like she thought they were gonna have real sex, you know, and she's like getting herself ready for it mentally, physically, blah blah blah.
He tells her to put makeup on. She's like, makeup? He's like, I'm only a man.
Yeah, and then he turns her around, you know, and does his own thing while she's just standing there. So I think she was probably a little humiliated and pissed, and like she told him to go fuck himself, and it was funny. And then, you know, you go from that, and then you're stuck in the house. So it's like you still got to deal with this dude.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the table is set, and then you end up opening some ramen and eating. It's like,
The
well, what the heck
subtitle
is
should have
really
just
going
been
on?
like, the perils of having a bad roommate.
Well,
Oh shit.
now, we kind of mentioned some of the rituals, and some of them I might have forgot to bring up. But which one of the rituals that you saw might have been the one that could have potentially have been too much for you, Moni?
I don't know, because again, in her mindset, I think with her character, it really went along with it that someone that's that desperate to see their child honestly has mental issues that she needs to work out whether or not the rituals work. And maybe, who are we to judge? Maybe a couple months basically in solitary with someone who's a stranger to you, so you don't care what they think of you, doing whatever you need to do to feel like you're exercising this grief out was legit. That being said, I wouldn't sign up to have sex with that dude, I'll tell you what. Taking the toadstool, that was pretty intense. Yeah, the peeing on herself where she had to fast for 3 days. I don't know. You tell me if I can't eat for like 3 hours and I'm fucking out right there.
I had a hard stop at drinking the blood. I was like, you know what? No, I don't think I can drink the blood.
Well, that's we were just yelling like, just forgive already, goddamn.
Yeah, no kidding. Drinking the blood was probably, I would have been like, I mean, he did tell her, because that's what she chose, besides the forgiveness.
The forgiveness,
yeah. And I, you know what, I understand why she didn't want to choose the forgiveness one now, and of course we haven't gotten to this part, but of course, when the reborn ritual, I would have to say, of course, would be a big no, but before we get to that part, before all that happens, and we're just looking at the main, normal rituals they started out with, drinking the blood, you know what, I don't know, I really like my sleep, but drinking the blood would have been probably a no-go for me.
Well, I tried to smoothly walk around it, but I kind of spoiled something like earlier in the episode with something that I said. But
it's okay. Probably people didn't catch
get
it.
back to that.
Yeah.
Now, over time, after all these rituals are happening, Sophia eventually gets frustrated that they aren't working because, it's been so long, excuse me, and they've been doing these things, and yet she hasn't really netted any results. So she lashes out at Joseph. Joseph believes it's because Sophia hasn't been telling him the truth, that she hasn't told him everything about her intentions. So eventually, Sophia reveals that she wants revenge for the death of her child, which happened doing these types of rituals. So initially, she told Joseph that she just wanted to speak to her child, but when things weren't going as fast as she wanted, essentially, she just says, hey, I want revenge for the death of my kid. So that's got to be kind of tough. But I know, if I was a parent and my kid died doing ritualistic stuff like this, I don't think that I'm going to embrace that stuff to try to reattach with my child, though. I mean, I don't know. That's just it's kind of tough. I actually, do you either of you feel like you needed to actually know how her son's demise came as a result of the ritual, or you felt like it worked with her just mentioning it and them kind of moving forward from there?
I don't know. I always like more expose in a plot. Sorry, Kristi. I always like more expose in a plot. And I just want to point out, too, both of these characters, and they're pretty much the only two characters with the exception of a short conversation with Sophia's sister in the beginning, they are unreliable witnesses. I mean, Joseph is someone we don't know from shit, and Sophia doesn't know from shit, and, admits that he is detoxing. He is an alcoholic, and we see him put some booze away in a drawer for later use. And then Sophia lies and lies and lies. And you can't, you're already literally, in my mind, doing a deal with the devil or with demons to speak to your child. And now it turns out, initially she told him it was because someone she loved didn't love her back. And then she told him she just wanted to speak to her child. Then she tells him it's revenge. I mean, both of them are so full of shit that you're just, I think it really did a good job for me anyway, laying the suspenseful psychological groundwork of a nice little slow burn thriller that this turned out to be, because you're just like, what are these two idiots going to come up with next? This is just the most broken, damaged people you could get doing one of the most dangerous and poorly bad ideas that you could possibly have. So I thought this was just super interesting.
Now, I got to ask this question because I might have remembered it wrong, but when you hear the little boy on the other side of the door the first time, and he's knocking and trying to get her to open the door, was that before she had revealed that she wants revenge, or was it after? Can anybody remember?
No, it was that happened. That happened after.
After, okay.
Yeah,
I was
'cause we were
thinking
coming up on that.
I was thinking it happened before, and then I was like, well, it was clear that she wasn't looking to talk to her child because he was at the door, and of course it wasn't him, but she wouldn't open the door. And I'm like, and I remember thinking, well, duh, yeah. I mean, if you were really there to talk to your child, then. And of course that wasn't him, but if that was a mother desperate doing all those things, she would have opened the door, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with Moni of the other stuff, but I just wanted to ask that really quick because I couldn't remember, and I didn't remember if that was before or after the reborn ceremony, which I'm sure you're getting to right now.
Yeah, we'll just dive right on into that. So Joseph basically tells Sophia she has to be made anew after the deception and gives her a baptism, so to speak, to be reborn. I put in the notes, it's kind of reminiscent of, if you watch Game of Thrones, the Greyjoy drowned god ritual, where they drown you, you go unconscious, and then they just essentially give you CPR. And if you're able to come out of it with the CPR, then you're the one. So he essentially does that. And I think, like any of us or anybody who's listening, once you regain consciousness, because she was essentially, she thought that he was just essentially attacking. I mean, this is the type of shit that you got to give me some warning on, but maybe it's only effective if she's in that extreme condition, though. You know what I mean? So Sophia, she comes to, she attacks Joseph. Joseph ends up falling against the counter. He knocks over some silverware. He slips to the floor, and he's impaled through the side with a kitchen knife. So Joseph kind of sits there. In a way, he kind of thinks it's a penance for doing the ritual. And they actually have a moment. She pulls the knife out, starts trying to sew it up, and then Sophia asks him, what's he going to ask the angel? And Joseph says invisibility, to gain some quiet before the howl. So I thought that was kind of interesting. How did y'all feel about this scene, though, with Joseph and then him kind of talking about what was really going on with him? And did you see it coming for him to kind of get stabbed in the side and start bleeding out?
I didn't. I mean, I know she was really pissed, of course, from being drowned and then being brought back to life. And, I can't imagine you're feeling, how you feel about that. Sitting down, she's stewing, she's pissed, she's cold, she just died. And she was betrayed. I mean, he told her they were taking a bath, not, he wasn't going to kill her. And so she lashed out at him. And, they show a picture of the knife, and I'm thinking he's going to grab the knife, but no, instead he ends up falling on it, and he says that it's because of her guardian angel protecting her, and then now officially it's begun. And no, I did not see that coming, but I knew from that point on shit was getting real, because they can't go anywhere, and he's got this giant stab wound and limited bandages and things. So it was like, this ain't gonna turn out good for him for sure, because that was a gnarly stab wound. It wasn't just like a little cut.
I thought it was neat to see him walk the walk, because his own rules were, even if there's a medical emergency, we don't leave the house. And I was waiting for someone as so far not very reliable or not very likable as him to be like, oh, I need to go to the hospital. But he was just like, nope, let's do what we can do. Yeah. And this is what I get. And as far as the quiet before the howl, I mean, that also speaks to just how broken they both are, that he's like, all I want to do is live invisibly away from other people. And it's like, you kind of wonder what's happened in his past, but I like that they don't really talk about that. I mean, we don't need to know, but it's just kind of interesting to see how fucked up both of these people are, like blind leading the blind through a demon, months-long demon calling. It's craziness.
Yeah, it totally is. But, just like, Solomon's a tough cat, just like you said, he walked the walk, so he keeps soldiering on, and he keeps going on with this wound. And of course, a guy is gonna be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Walk it off.
It's always the rational woman saying, motherfucker, you're really not, but I'll let you say that if that keeps you going. So
Yeah.
at this point, Sophia begins seeing and hearing dark, like presences and voices in the house. And then she hears the pleading voice of her son. And this is what Kristi was mentioning earlier. And she refuses to talk to the son. And I think he was mentioning that dog. And I think it was like a dog was attacking him. So anything to make her open up that door. So I kind of felt like she pulled out, even though that's what she wanted, she understood that really wasn't, her son, and that he wasn't really in danger. But watching it and watching her, I thought she really pulled it off. It was a tough moment for the viewer as well. I mean, did that kind of tug on y'all's heartstrings a little bit?
Meh. I like I said, I haven't loved either one of these characters very much, but yeah, I mean, to see a little bit past just him up till then berating her, screaming at her, calling her names, like I guess that's what berating means. But anyway, he was pretty awful to her up until then, and she wasn't wrong when she was like, remember who paid you? I mean, he got 80 grand for doing this, or was going to get 80 grand for doing this. So anyway, yeah,
more than 80 grand.
Didn't she talk? Didn't
80 grand? It's 120 or 130,000 grand in American money. This was in UK.
Oh, yeah.
And she was going in euros, so euros are worth more than American money.
They're worth more than $1.
So he was getting a major payout. But I mean, the kid, my heart broke for her a little bit because I mean, think about all this shit she's been doing to get what she wants, and this wasn't, of course, what she really wanted. But I mean, but still, the boy's there. How hard has that got to be? I actually watched a movie, and I cannot freaking remember the name of it, where a woman lost her son, and she traveled to she traveled to like the Philippines to do or she lived in the Philippines, and her maid told her to go to the sacred place. And if she does and knocks on the door, the little boy, she can talk to the little boy. And she ends up opening the door and taking the boy, and all hell breaks loose and all this crazy shit goes down. Anyway, I mean, this movie really reminded me of that, but this movie was better. But I can't remember the name of that movie. But I mean,
the chick was from The Walking Dead from that movie.
Yes,
I remember. Yeah.
I mean, you just can't come between a mother and a child, and clearly, whoever was on the other side of the door knows this. And if you're gonna tease or trick a woman into opening a door, have a child crying out for help. I mean, that's their own child. I mean, that takes a lot of strength to not open that door. So I really
I answered the wrong question. Yeah, I mean, I felt bad for her because I probably would have opened the goddamn door, but analytically watching it from the comfort of my living room, not being in her situation, I was just like, this is what you get when you basically summon demons to try to bring your son to talk to you. I mean, this is nuts. Especially for a bad purpose such as vengeance. I mean, if talking to a child at least is a something that's admirable or something that is loving and light. And when you actually find out she wants to get vengeance, it's just like Jesus, you eat Jesus.
She, I guess in her mind, she does the right thing. She does not open the door for the pleading son. And after that happens, she walks back and she finds out that Solomon has succumbed to the infection from that bad wound that he had. So he died in his sleep. I doubt it was peacefully, but he died. And after discovering his body, she goes back to the books that Joseph was referencing to do all of the rituals. When she finds the books, everything has been marked out and you can't read anything. That would have freaked me out. So why do y'all think that he did that? Is he just being a hater to the end, or is that something that's part of the ritual that you can only do it? And he wanted to make sure that nobody else found those books and repeated it. Why do you think that was?
I wondered if it was him. Like, I didn't know if he did it or if something else did it and didn't want her to complete the ritual. I wasn't sure. Like, I was kind of like, did he do this? Or was it something else? I don't know. I mean, I
was wondering, yeah, if the demons or whatever, the spirits did it, only because, as you're going to come to in a minute, she is unable, her car doesn't work, she's unable to walk away from the house. Like, I just kind of thought they're in an altered state now, and anything can happen. But I mean, that was one thing. I don't know. Did you guys find it predictable? Like, as soon as he got that infection, I'm like, this motherfucker's going to die, and then she's going to have no way to complete it, and then she's going to break the seal by going outside. Did you guys see that happening right at the point that he started pushing pus out of his wound, or what?
No, I didn't, but so by the time she looked at the books, I didn't know if he was officially dead. I knew he was, like, on the brink. And so it took me, I guess I'm slow, it took me until a little bit later to realize he's dead. And, because, he had been sick, and he'd been struggling, and the pus was coming out, and I didn't know how long it had been since the injury, because there's really no concept of time in this movie. You really have no idea, unless they mention it here and there, what day it is or how long they've been in there, and months and months, and so I was like, okay, he's passed out on the floor. He's like on the brink of death. I didn't know he had died yet. And so no, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I kept thinking, well, if he's dead, like, she can bring him back, because they're all, because of the stuff that's happening during this time, she's not in the dimension that she was in. They're into a different, I call it dimension. Something crazy's going on, and she could maybe bring him back, but I guess that didn't happen, or she was too pissed and didn't give a shit about him anyway.
Yeah, well, I totally knew that he was going to die at some point. Didn't really know that it was going to be in this type of a scenario. But as one of you had mentioned earlier, she ends up stepping beyond the perimeter of the house, and they made that real dramatic. She tries to leave. The car won't start. She tries to walk away on foot, and then she realizes that she just arrived back at the mansion in the exact same place that she started. So she reenters the house to discover various kinds of demons appearing and reappearing. They're coming in and out of the shadows. A demon ends up smacking her over the head, drags her to the basement. It torments her and does all types of crazy things to psych her out, ends up cutting off one of her fingers, and then she starts pleading and saying how sorry she is. The demons, they start to retreat away. Something is like bothering them. So once they retreat, we see a bright light. And in that bright light, she sees a massive, beautiful angel wearing all this glittery armor waiting for her. And if that was a toy, take my money, because I was going to buy that thing. It was
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a little crazy to actually see when the guy says we're dealing with angels, but when we saw it, it was pretty cool. And it pretty much it starts talking, but we can't hear it, but she can. And we have to assume that it's asking her what is it that she wants, and then she ends up saying the power to forgive. And then the angel smiles, and then we see this other scene of her performing a water burial for Solomon in a nearby pond, and it ends with her driving away. So how did y'all feel about this ending, the angel, and did you think that her just asking for forgiveness was how did that strike you as, being the way that this thing ended? She could have chose anything. I guess she probably could have chose to be wealthy or chose to talk to her son, but she just chose to forgive the people that killed her son. I thought it was kind of cool.
I liked it. And honestly, if the movie hadn't ended this dramatically and extra, as you called it, I would have been disappointed, because you have to build up to something. If it had just been something, it needed really, really big effects. The demon people were kind of weird. They just look aboriginals to me, so I was kind of like, that's the demons? Like, I thought they could have done better with the demon people. But the angel was awesome. He was huge. He was like the size of the freaking Statue of Liberty, and he's like knelt down in the room, and you can see like this like sparkles coming, dripping off his body, and he's talking, and it sounds like a giant tuba is talking, and you can't understand anything he's saying. It was really dramatic, and I loved it because it needed that. I mean, yes, there was a lot of fucked up fucking with your mind throughout the whole movie. What are these people doing? It was a slow burn, but it did need something big at the end, and I'm glad they just went for it. And I thought her asking for forgiveness was probably a test, and she passed it. Like, I think, he appears and he's like, what is it that you want? And she could have asked for revenge. She worked her ass off for, getting what she wanted. And when it came down to it, she was so inspired and in awe by this angel that she asked for the right thing instead of the wrong thing, which could have landed her back in the pit with the demons, if you think about it, So she saved her ass, in my opinion, and asked for the right thing, and you could tell by the look on his face that she asked for the right thing, and at the end of the day, the revenge isn't going to bring her son back. And I think she kind of figured that out. And what's next for her after she gets her revenge? She's got nothing left. So now I think she got her peace. She's at peace. She's forgiven. And she can now try to form a life again, That's kind of how I felt about the ending.
Moni, what you got?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, I'm kind of wish that we hadn't seen the angel. I don't know. I feel like everyone's perception of what an angel would look like is so personal and unique. Yeah. So it looked sort of cheesy. Like, I almost wish that we could have just seen a bright light and her and, looking into a bright light and having that same interaction that she ended up having. But still, that being said, this movie really reminded me of The Babadook, and I think it was beautiful the way that it ended. And I mean, I'll go ahead and jump forward a little too to say that it wasn't my favorite film just because we all know I like things that go boom, and I think the way that it was billed of being like such an adult film, I was really thinking there was going to be more of the crazy shit that happened at the end. But it had creepy moments, and the slow burn had some payoff, so I enjoyed it overall. I'm glad I watched it, but yeah, that was my only critique really, is that I kind of wish we hadn't seen the angel, but I kind of also liked that Solomon gets peace as well. I mean, yeah, he's died, but he pretty much wanted to just disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got a nice-ish burial by someone who ended up caring about him at the end, possibly the only one in the world now that cared about him anymore. And I think that it was a fitting ending for both of them if we were going to have a happy ending to this tale.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I think Solomon got what he wanted. He didn't get an opportunity to see the angel, but it came back. So he got his wish on that front. And I'm totally with you about I kind of wish it would have been a bright light or something. And it would have kind of gave her even more of an opportunity, because she did sell with the look on her face of like seeing an angel. I thought that it would have worked even more had we gotten more of that with maybe a light. But the fact that they did it, they literally did it big. And that's the thing that kind of got me, because I wasn't really expecting to see that angel there like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn, that's, it's really sticking out and it's really majestic. So agreed. I think that both ways worked. But I'm kind of more along the lines of the bright light would have been kind of cool. But hey, then I would have been saying, hell, I want to see the angel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm for the one that likes to see the stuff. I want to see. I wished they had done better with the demons, and I liked that I saw the angel. Like, I'm like, yes, thank you. Because so much, it had just been them two for so long. And, even when the things started to happen, they were just little things, and there was no, you didn't see anything. And I just wanted to see, I was like, oh, good, they showed him. That's pretty awesome. I think they did a pretty good job at kind of interpreting what they think, a guardian angel would look like. And I was happy. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And I thought, like you, Yardley, she freaking sold this movie. Like they both did. There's no way in hell this movie would have worked if you had two people that could not act or were just, tepid actors and actresses. I don't know who these people are, but the whole movie was good because of them, really. I mean, of course, because they're the only two, but you really have to pull some of this shit off and really have just dripping the character development, and they did. And it, you know, Solomon was just a dick, and you didn't want to like him, but at the end, he came through for her. And so I'm just like, yeah, he was a dick, but he promised her, and she got what she asked for. So
well, and also the ritual in itself, all of the things that Joseph was jotting down in the books and the things that he were looking at were rituals that were based off of, I think, different cultures, because some of that stuff was Celtic, some of that stuff was Japanese because he was writing it on her back. Some of that stuff, it was just different cultures. So that's why I think that we got the different looking, you know, some of the things that were happening. Like you said, the demons looked like they were Aborigines, right, and things like that. But that's one of the things that I kind of noticed, was that it was, you know, it was pieced together, this whole ritual from different cultures. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know how that would work, but obviously he knew what he was doing. So overall, before we talk about what's coming up on next week's show, on a scale of 1 to 5, you know, I would give it a 3.75, because I thought I had really no expectations going into this. I chose the occult because it wasn't something that we had really touched on in any reviews before, and I was pleasantly surprised at the acting. They didn't spend a ton of money. They shot it in one location, but they really sold a lot of the things that they were trying to do, especially the exercises and her torment and, you know, sometimes torture over those months trying to get to this point of somehow talking to her son or getting this revenge or whatever. I thought that they really did sell it. So for me, of the last few movies that I've picked, I think that this is the best one. I think this is the best one since Train to Busan.
I liked Raw better. I thought Raw was really fucked up, and of course, you know me, I have a tainted mind, so I liked this movie. I didn't. It took me a while of watching it, to like it. I was like, this is boring. Like, I thought it was boring at first, and I was struggling with really getting into it. And then about halfway through, I really started to really focus in, and it caught my attention. I'd say it's 3.5 for me. Only, I mean, I would have given it a 3, but I liked the ending. I thought the ending it needed to be the way it was, or otherwise this movie would not have worked. It needed to be out there, because they had been acting crazy and out there from the get-go. So if we had gotten just a lukewarm ending, this whole movie would have tanked for me. It needed to be crazy at the end, and it was, and I liked it. And I also liked that she made a different choice at the end instead of the revenge, because she was just hell-bent on that revenge, and it was eating her alive. And so she did good at the end and chose differently, and that, you know, upped it more points in my mind. I'm like, she totally threw us for a loop. So, yeah, I'd give it a 3.5.
I'd give it a 3. It's better than average, but yeah, I actually like character studies. I know, as much as I joke about needing things to go boom, so I didn't mind, you know, the setup that there was, and I was interested in what the ritual was going to be, but then I actually got more kind of bored midway when nothing was really happening and we were still kind of slogging through the same territory. So, and the mystery was interesting, you know, like why she was really doing it and that kind of stuff, but not enough to make me want to, like, oh my God, I need to see what happens next, twists and turns and shock. So, and I liked the ending. I liked seeing all the creepy demons and all that stuff. That was cool. So yeah, a 3 overall, better than average. But I think too, I went in with too much expectation because Yardley had posted the Rotten Tomatoes and the IMDb reviews, and you know, obviously they were all pretty darn positive. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be so creepy. And then again, you know, Netflix and everywhere was like, oh, such mature, it's so fucked up. And I'm like, okay, so I'm really looking for crazy ritual, you know, stuff that's gonna be messed up like Raw, but it still was good for what it was, and I think it turned out to be kind of a beautiful story in the end.
Now, I'm going to make the assumption that Anonymous Penguin is Kristi for next week's show. I'm looking in the Google Doc and it doesn't have your name. It just has the
not me.
Anonymous Penguin.
Okay, because Moni is Anonymous Anteater. I didn't know who I was because I can't see my own tag. I'm like,
an anteater? Really? I can't see my own tag either.
Yeah.
Random.
So next week is me, Kristi. And I thought we'd do something a little different. I had been thinking about, we always hear so much about the most evil men in history, but we don't really hear about who we would consider the most evil women in history. And, of course, also, as we know, history can be not actually factual. Just depends on who's telling the story. So I wanted us to talk about Elizabeth Bathory, also known as the Blood Countess. She's considered by many to be the world's worst female serial killer and was the true inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, along with, what's his name, the guy that staked all those people. Can't remember his name, but in around the same area.
Vlad the Impaler?
Vlad, yes. Legend has it that she bathed in the blood of at least 650 servant girls that she had tortured and killed. She was also said to be so evil that villagers kept their daughters in hiding for fear that Elizabeth would take them. Her gruesome activities earned her the name the Blood Countess. But did she really do all those things? We will discuss the legends and look into why this may have been made up. So I will have something for us to watch, and then also have, some notes and stuff that we can talk about, and kind of do a did she or didn't she type of episode for next week.
Okay,
Cool.
you know what? That sounds like a good change of pace. And also, I just want to say thanks everybody once again who sent in their stories for us to read last week. And if you have any others, go ahead and email them to us at creepingitrealshow@gmail.com. And if we get enough of them, that could maybe be something that we could consider just having a segment to maybe like read one. An episode and then kind of talk about it as well. So big ups to everybody who did that.
I have a real quick funny story about that.
Okay.
Everybody who I kept saying, email to the creepingitrealshow@gmail.com. And I freaked out on myself and I tried to log into our Gmail account and I couldn't get in. And it was like, your password. And then it was like, to get your, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I forget my password? I know that's the password. Holy shit, somebody has hacked into our Gmail, and I was losing my shit. I resent the password to me, but it wasn't coming to me, and I'm like, so somebody hacked into our Gmail. So I was totally writing the email wrong. I was writing creepingitreal@gmail.com instead of creepingitrealshow@gmail.com. So whoever Creeping It Real is out in the universe, I'm really sorry. I totally tried to hack into your account, thinking somebody had hacked into my account. Apologize for that. I felt like such an idiot. I mean, I spent like 30 minutes freaking out, going, oh my God, somebody hacked our account. How am I going to get these emails?
Yeah, but just think about it throughout the course of the week or whatever. I mean, we're always having to put a password in for something, and then we end up, you know what I mean? So that's understandable. But I thought that last week was great that people actually took the time to send us some stuff, and it was pretty fun. I'm still thinking about the dog in the corner of the shed, and I'm like, I have to find out. So whoever wrote that, if you could email us back, I definitely wanted to know, was that a dog that you had adopted, or is that a dog that you had? Yeah.
I'll ask him. He might not have heard the story. He might not have heard the show. So I'll ask him.
Okay. Well, if it sounds like we can go ahead and wrap those things up. I definitely look forward to the Blood Countess. And until next time, creepers.
Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Jesus is me and you. Oh, oh. Jesus is me and you. Oh, oh. And whenever I let you to